ओ ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य मआणिस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम अवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु। अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा जिह्वे पिबस्वामृतमेतदेव गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। नारायण नारायण नारायण। वर्स नंबर 59। विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते। विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते। Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji's bhashya on this verse. First, I'll read the connecting bhashya which Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji has written, connecting the verse number 58 to this verse number 59. Then I'll read the bhashya for this verse and then we'll take up the meaning. Tatra vishayan anaharata aturasya api indriyani nivartante kurmangani iva samhriyate natu tad vishayo ragah Sakatham samhriyate iti uchyate. That was the connecting bhashya which Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji has written. Now we read the bhashya of verse 59 as written by Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji. Yadyapi विषयोपलक्षितानि विषयशब्दवाच्यानि इन्द्रियाणि अथ वा विषया एव निराहारस्य अनाह्रियमाण विषयस्य कष्टे तपसि स्थितस्य मूर्खस्य अपि विनिवर्तन्ते देहिनो देहवतः रसवर्जं रसो रागो विषयेषु यत्तं वर्जयित्वा रसशब्दो रागे प्रसिद्धः स्वरसेन प्रवृत्तो रसिको रसज्ञः इत्यादि दर्शनात् सह अपि रसो रंजन रूपः सूक्ष्मः अस्य यतेः परं परमार्थतत्त्वं ब्रह्म दृष्ट्वा उपलभ्य अहम् एव तद् इति वर्तमानस्य निवर्तते निर्बीजं विषय विज्ञानं संपद्यते इत्यर्थः न अस्ति सम्यक् दर्शने रसस्य उच्छेदः तस्मात् सम्यक् दर्शनात्मिकायाः प्रज्ञायाः स्थैर्यं कर्तव्यम् इति अभिप्रायः. Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna expounding upon the topic of self-control, which he started from the verse 58 onwards, where Bhagwan is elaborating upon the kind of self-control exercised by a man of realization, a kind of self-control which is exercised by a perfect one. Let's understand the literal meaning of this verse as a connection to the last verse, and then we'll go forward. Bhagwan says the object of senses, Vishaya Vinivartante, senses turn away from the abstinent one, Niraharasya Dehinaha, leaving the longing behind. Remember, the topic which Bhagwan is picking up is about the longing. Even though somebody may give up the sense objects, but the taste or the longing which is there inside for that object doesn't leave that easily. Leaving the longing behind, but his longing also. So Bhagwan is giving a solution for that. Param drishtva nivartate. The longing also leaves him upon seeing the Supreme. So what Bhagwan is trying to bring up in this particular verse is, without pratyahara or uparati, means exercising self-control or abstinence, we can observe cases, which is what Bhagwan Shankaracharya is connecting bhashya is about this particular verse. We can observe cases wherein an individual comes to maintain sense withdrawal from the sense objects due to some physical incapacity or due to some special mental mood of temporary sorrow or misery. In all these cases, though the sense organs come to feel an aversion for the respective objects, their inclination for these objects merely remains dormant for the time being. And that's what exactly Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji is also mentioned in his connecting bhashya. Tatra Vishayan Anaharata. We see a person who is suffering from a disease or ailment. We see that that person is also, as advised by the doctor, is having some kind of an aversion towards the objects. Is not actually consuming the objects as advised by the doctor, which is according to what his ailment, treatment for his ailment is all about. We see that in even a person who is suffering from a disease or ailment also, that his senses withdraw from those objects which are earlier his objects of liking. He used to consume a lot and all those things. On the advice of the doctor for treatment of his ailment, his senses withdraw from those objects. But remember that, and if we prima facie see, we can draw that with the simile what Bhagwan has given in verse number 58. It is exactly like Kurmangani Iva, like a tortoise withdraw its senses. Externally we see that even if a person who's suffering from a disease or ailment, if as a part of treatment is advised by the doctor to not engage in certain objects or certain things, it's seen that his senses also withdraw from those objects. That's besides the point how temporary it is. I'm not coming to that point. But prima facie, it may see that he's also withdrawing like a tortoise withdrawing his senses from the the moment it senses a danger, it senses some vibration, it senses something which is not right. But natu tad vishayo raga samhriyate natu tad vishayo raga. But we see that the clinging which is there, the kind of what you call that attachment which is there for that particular object, inclination which is there for those objects, is not completely destroyed within that person. It is temporarily withdrawn, because there is a reason why. Because if I need to treat my ailment, I better do. I don't want to remain sick, right? So we see that for a person who is advised by doctor for an ailment also, we see him withdrawing in his senses from the objects which were earlier part of his liking, but the actual clinging or inclination is not destroyed. How sa katham samhyate iti uchyate. Now see the beauty of Bhagavan Shankaracharya, the way he has connected the verses. Now that even though withdrawal of senses is seen in an external form, in an external behavior, how that inclination which is lying dormant, the kind of clingingness which is lying dormant in that man, the kind of drawing power which that object had inside him is lying dormant, how that is destroyed. For that is what Bhagavan has given this particular verse. Actually, we see that that's how this verse needs to be understood. And while Bhagavan, Supreme Consciousness, Bhagavan Krishna, he used the initial form of self-control as Dehinaha Niraharasya. We need to understand. Dehinaha means, here need to understand, look at the BMI chart which I have explained. Body is not what we are. The mind, intellect and the internal equipment, so to say, they are called, along with the self, is called Dehinaha. Dehina means that one who has body. Okay. Body is a very temporary thing. It's just a temporary instrument. It's a temporary residence for us for moving through this particular lifetime, through the passage of life in this particular lifetime. That's why body keeps changing. And I told you, depending upon what our karma phala and vasanas are, we may fall into a lower body also, we may go into a higher, we may raise into a higher body also, rise into a higher body also. So that's the point which Bhagavan is trying to make here. Dehinaha niraharasya. The Dehina means the one who has this body. So we see a seeker also practices a kind of control by becoming nirahar. See, the literal meaning of nirahar, the word we understand, ahar, is what? Food. So for us, the literal meaning of word nirahar means one when we actually remain without food for a particular point in time. Okay, so I gave you one example in the last session also when I was describing in fasting. Fasting is a way to actually practice the habit of remaining nirahar for a particular point in time. And I gave you one example which you must not forget. Of course, if we do fasting, and Sanatan Dharma is so rich in that we have Ekadashi coming twice a month. We have so many festivals which promote fasting also, like Shivratri is there now, Janmashtami is going to come very soon, then Ganesh Chaturthi is there, then that Navratras 9 days are there. We are absolutely rich in heritage of having the occasions of fasting. So the point which we need to remember while fasting is, it's not that fasting means that I don't even think of the food and I've done my fasting. Actually, that's not an effective fasting. So many people run away from fasting. They say, I keep thinking of the food the whole day. What is the use of doing such a fasting? And our Puja Guruji Swami Subodhananji used to say it very beautifully. The beauty and effectiveness of fasting is that when remaining without food, even though your senses are continuously thinking of food, your mind is continuously thinking of food, but still you are practicing to remain without the food. You are not allowing your mind to consume. That itself is the effectiveness of fasting. And this, it is an initial level of practicing in the point of becoming nirahar. But remember one thing, ahar in Sanatan Dharma, in our scripture in Vedanta, does not only notify or does not only indicate food which we consume for the body or the external food items we see. That's besides the point. Now the food itself has expanded in such a way, good, bad, ugly, I'm not coming and touching that point, but it is definitely expanded in such a way that our mind is getting diverted to food in a very, very different manner altogether. And I told you one statement earlier also, that with food, remember one thing, it is said in our scriptures very clearly, if we consume food as medicine, we will not have to end up consuming medicine as food. And it's a very, it's itself is a food for thought, so to say. So that's one thing which we need to remember. But here the ahar shabd does not only denote the external food we consume. So the actual technical meaning of the word nirahar is when a seeker does not take any external object. External objects means of all the five senses of perception I'm talking about. Does not take any object within him into the mind. So what happens is, external object travels through the senses, or senses carry them to our mind, and then mind decides liking, disliking, attachment, aversion, and all those things. So the actual technical meaning of the word nirahar actually means when a seeker practices this thing, practices this control, to not take any objects from within, any objects from outside within him, from any of the senses. Means what? He does not consume the external objects. That's how you need to understand. And he does not take the ahar. It doesn't do the aharan. So what is the process, as how we become free from the external objects? So that is also very beautiful explained in Vedanta, we must know. So to become free from objects, or to practice control over objects, or not to consume object, there is a defined process. The first step is we stop consuming, or we stop engaging with those things which are prohibited for us, which is called nishiddh. So we stop up engaging with those things which are prohibited, or we stop up getting into those activities completely. We stop ourselves from getting engaged into the prohibited action. That's the first level of control. So to progress from there, what happens is, then slowly, gradually, we get into those objects which are actually not prohibited, which are allowed for us. First thing. Okay. Now we get into if you have already given up the prohibited things and objects, then let's move into the ones which are allowed for us. With those things which are allowed for us, in there also the next level of control is to gauge what is required by me and what is that which is not so much required by me. So those things which are not so much required by me, or I would not use the word useless, but they are not something which are need of me right now. They are good to have. They may be luxurious things and all. They may be good to have, but they are not necessary for me. Those things which are necessary for me, so within those things which are allowed, creating that bifurcation, that what is necessary for me and what is that which is not necessary for me. I'm not using the word unnecessary for a reason. So then the level of control will be with those things which are allowed. I will stop of engaging or consuming those which are not necessary for me. That's the second level of control, exercising control over this, of becoming nirahar, of becoming, moving away from the objects of desire. The third level from this second level where we progress into is that we start to reduce our necessities in life. That's the third level of control which Bhagwan is actually explaining us to. So these are the three levels of becoming free from objects, or free from inclination, or free from actually attachment to the objects, or free from engaging into the objects so much. In our Puranas, in Sanatan Dharma Puranas, as they say, whenever there is a statement which is explained about manasik tapas, the kind of tapas we do, the kind of practice we do, actually at the level of mind also, the first level they talk about is giving up the food. You will see many examples of that actually in our Puranas, in our scriptures of Vedanta actually. So in our Sanatan Dharma scriptures, whenever you hear or the narration of austerity being practiced, so I mean austerity being practiced, you will see it always starts from the level of food which is consumed first. So I'm giving you certain examples, like in Ramcharitmanas, in Balkand, and it comes the description of about Mother Parvati's austerity before she gained Lord Shiva as her husband. It says that it is mentioned there, Uma Nam Tab Bhayau Aparna. So slowly, gradually, Parvati ji withdrew from food items, and start to depend her body maintenance on fruits first. Then from fruits, she slowly, gradually start to depend upon on leaves, leaves for or her survival, her body survival. And slowly, gradually, towards the end of the austerity she was practicing, even those leaves and dry leaves were also given up. That's how it is mentioned, Uma Namatab Bhayau Aparna. This is mentioned in Ramcharitmanas Balkand, and the 73rd verse, and in continuing chopai from there. And when the description of Manu Maharaj and Shatrupa Devi comes, even in Srimad Bhagavad also it comes, when the austerity of them is explained in Srimad Bhagavad and our Puranas also, it is also mentioned there that slowly, gradually they give up food, and they give up food, and they reach a level where their body survives only on the air, the breathe in and breathe out, and their body became so weak that it became only like a skeleton and alone. So these kind of austerities are there, we need to understand that. But the other point we need to remember is that yes, those kind of austerities are there, and there are great saints and sages who have done that also. There are many who are doing it now also. But if we really technically translate those kind of descriptions into our life, those kind of austerities are not possible for everyone, right? Those kind of austerities cannot be put into practice by every seeker, right? That means what? Seeker should give up? No, those kind of austerities, by hearing it itself, some seekers find it very difficult. So is that the point to become discouraged? No, if that is the kind of austerity which is an actual austerity, if you think, then what will other seekers or those people who want to practice austerity, what will they do? What is available for them? So that is why Bhagwan Krishna's beauty is that, Supreme Consciousness, Bhagwan Krishna's beauty is that Bhagwan Krishna through this particular verse is giving us the way out. We as normal human being may not be able to practice those kind of austerities which were practiced in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga and all. It's going to be difficult for us, right? So Bhagwan is giving us that kind of a secret that we as normal people can actually practice this kind of an austerity which Bhagwan is talking about. Bhagwan Bhashyakar, in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita itself, in its Bhashya, Bhagwan gives one line, and as a meaning of the word ahar, ahriyante iti aharaha. Whatever things, whatever objects we actually take within us through the root of our senses, they are all termed under the word called ahar. Ahar is not necessarily the external food we eat. Don't think that only. All that we consume or take inside it through our senses, everything qualifies under the word called ahar. So if that is the meaning, one more thing I should tell you, during fasting, which we usually practice during Ekadashi and all, definitely yes, mind may wander towards the food things and all because we are giving up that. But one of the important things which is there in the time when we fast is we should also constantly engage our mind in remembrance of God. Means what? We should withdraw our all other senses also from all other objects also, and devote all those energy conserved saved from those running after the sense objects into actually remembrance of God. That is the actual fasting. Fasting is not that we wait for the evening to break our fast. So that's not the thing. Definitely, yes, it has got a benefit that we are able to avoid food during the day and consume only once in a day or consume the next day. That has got definitely has got its benefit, because it's giving you the ability to exercise self-control, because that way you are holding on to mind, and that doesn't take you to sway it into the directions and it wants to go, it wants to make you go after. So here we need to understand, during the fasting also, I'm using this verse because this verse I quoted many places, is to explain people about fasting also. So I'm using that now only here. While we are in the verse, might as well take it up. So yes, when we fast, whether it is Ekadashi or whether it is Shivratri, whether it is Ganesh Chaturthi, whether it is actually upcoming in Janmashtami also, whatever, whenever we do the fasting, one is definitely we should stop our mind from consuming the food. Okay, I'm not saying thinking about the food, because that's not going to be initially possible. Let it think, but whenever it goes after food, let it think for a while, take it back and invest it into the remembrance of God, for whichever God you have kept the fast. Like on Shivratri it is said that it is very good if you can continuously chant Om Namah Shivaya. It may not be loud enough, but you can chant within you. It's very good. It's going to be ultimately result giving for you. The same way, Janmashtami is going to come, Sri Krishnam Sharanam Mama, or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, or the Hare Rama Hare Krishna mantra. All those things, if you continuously chant, its results you cannot even believe, you cannot even imagine what kind of results it gives. So Bhagavan says, when you do not take the external objects through any of your senses as into you, that is the state called actually nirahar. Which are the objects we take through our senses? So we need to just define that also immediately before we move on. Through the eyes, we actually take within us the object called form. Forms we take to the mind. Through ears, we take sound or voice or music, we to take to that. Through our nose, we take within us all the kind of good perfumes also, good fragrance also, bad smell also. Through touch and all those things, you can just imagine all these things through our senses only go inside. Remember, from body has got, I told you the difference between that. Body has got external instruments called eyes, and then behind them, behind every external instrument, there is a functioning subtle entity called the sense organs. So I told you, even if somebody is cannot walk or anything also, those indriyas are present there, but the external manifestation or the external instrument to express them is not there. So Bhagavan says that, and he says, whatever is consumed by us, remember, that is actually the food of the enjoyer sitting within us, the bhokta sitting within us. Remember, even the taste of the form or the enjoyment of the form is also done by the enjoyer sitting us, which is the bhokta sitting us. Remember, body doesn't do this thing. And now let me just give you one example, you will understand. Body consumes food. I'm just taking you back to the food to explain you understand. Body is associated with the food because food nourishes the body, right? So the body's association with food is only to the level of nourishment. But taste, the aspect of taste in food is not for the body. Just think over it. Taste is actually for who? For the internal equipment called mind. Who enjoys the taste? The enjoyer sitting within us. So tasteless food also, when somebody is not well, and is told to eat bland food, and those kind of food which are completely tasteless also, even consuming tasteless food also, body continues to get nourished. But the tasteless food doesn't give happiness or enjoyment to the enjoyer sitting within us. So that time, when even though body is having ahar or food, but the dehinaha which is sitting inside us, the enjoyer which is sitting inside us, because the food is tasteless, is sitting as what? Nirahar, is remaining at the level of not enjoying, not consuming. Why? Because there is no taste in the food. Body is getting nourishment, but the dehi is not getting food for enjoyment. So remember, the food has got two aspects: the physical level, which nourishment of the body, and the internal level, which is the actual happiness driving factor for the mind. Without these is uh, objects of five elements, how will you maintain or nourish your body? For nourishment of the body, these things which are made of five elements are required. But the five kind of things, the subtle aspects, which is rupa form, rasa taste, gandha smell or fragrance, sparsha touch, dhvani the sound, all these things are actually the food for only the enjoyer sitting us, is the food for the enjoyer within us. Apart from these five things, remember one more thing: in mind also gets the food of things deriving out of situations, things arriving out of, or the experience arising out of situations, which is what is termed as happiness, and also the other opposite is sorrow also for that. If good fragrance, good sound or good music, good touch are those things which are felt as favorable by the mind, and that means what? Favorable means what? The mind is actually deriving happiness from them. If the person standing in front of you, you can see from his expression, his or her expression, love oozing out, respect coming out from them, then by seeing that or experiencing that, one definitely experiences happiness. And that is also a food for, or the dehinaha which is sitting inside us, the enjoyer which is sitting inside us. Through the forms also, what does mind do? Mind through the form also try to understand or try to estimate the kind of expression, through the expression trying to understand the emotion flowing from that particular person to you, and that is also a food for the enjoyer sitting within us. Like through the facial expression of the person standing or interacting with us, one assesses, one infers the kind of emotion flowing from that person to you, and that is what is actually the food, or the what is consumed by the mind of the particular person. So we need to understand this thing, and the things which are consumed are sometimes favorable also, sometimes non-favorable. So they can be favorable also, they can be non-favorable also. But all these things are actually the food for actually the dehi, the oneself sitting inside the body. They are not the food of the body at all. Like I'm giving you an example: respect, love, respect given to us, love given to us, the kind of feeling of being wanted shown to us. All these things are not required by the body. They are not required by the body at all. That is why Bhagwan and Krishna has mentioned niraharasya dehinaha. If we really translate or break them down into pieces, we will understand that in the mind of us humans, there are many kind of pervasive understandings in us, which is called vyaptis. Vyaptis means those things which are pervasive kind of thought, and it goes across us, humans, from one person to another. Many kind of these kind of pervasive thought is lying with us, that this kind of expression and translate into this kind of emotion. This kind of expression means what? This is what is expressed towards me. That in this kind of pervasive thought process which is already there, and there are thousands of such pervasive understandings which are there, and what we call that, it's called all the thousands of inferences which have been drawn on related to certain kind of behavior, related to certain kind of expressions. Now remember one thing, actually you will see in our life that our life actually circles around many kind of inference. The proof of inference which is explained to us, which is taught to us, which is understood by us, some are created by us also. I'm just giving you one example which is popularly given for Anuman Praman. The proof of inference is that yatha dhumah tatha vanni. Wherever there is smoke, there is an inference which is always drawn that fire is there, was there, or is there. Why? Because the kind of inference proof which is there is, without fire there cannot be smoke, and it is explained in many and used in many different connotations also. So I'm just giving you a certain example for you to understand what are the kind of thousands of pervasive emotions, pervasive thoughts which are understood by us. The few examples I can give you is which we usually prominently use in our life, and we can see them being used in our life very often. Somebody closes the door very hard or bangs the door on us. It means what? It denotes that it is an expression of that person's anger towards us. Somebody never shows back to us. Means what? It is showing us what? That person has respect towards us. That's why never shows back towards us at all. So I'm just giving you certain example for you to understand that there are several kind of pervasive inferences which are there, which are understood by us, how we actually transact in life and gather understanding. There are some which are more popular in the society. There are some which are drawn by us also, some which are actually created by us also. So we also keep making these kind of inferences. So remember one thing, food, which we call about the normal parlance of the word called food, is something, definitely it is for the body. It is for the body. But if you really see in that a real translation, the 5 kind of objects which I spoke about, the Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, Sparsha, and all those things which I spoke about, they are actually the food of the enjoyer sitting within us. And through these 5 kind of objects, actually different kind of experiences are gathered by the enjoyer sitting in us. Okay, now I'm just giving you another example for you to understand the kind of inferences we speak about. For example, somebody invited us for dinner. Now I'm giving you an example. Some people invite you for lecture, some people invite you for different things. Now when you go to their home, just think of one moment and step back and think, when you reach their house, somebody has created a beautiful kind of rangoli at their doorstep. They have decorated their home very well. The home is maintained spick and span, very clean. It is decorated with garlands and flowers hanging around the doors and all. You know, at the outset, all these are forms, but if we just translate that into forms alone, that is going to be an incomplete understanding. Actually, through these forms, somebody is expressing respect for us, respect for that person who is invited to their home, right? So that is how we need to understand, and the kind of enjoyership we are speaking about. So that's why this word called ahar or food is a very big and elaborate word which actually contains many things inside it. So to correctly understand that, and we need to understand the word nirahar, we need to understand it correctly, that who is the one who is going to be away or is going to give up food, maybe temporarily or whatever. The giving up of food is actually this function is actually for the enjoyer sitting with us. It's not for the body can live without food for some time. We can practice that also, but I'm not talking about that level of austerity to practice. Is actually the one who is not consuming the food is actually called the bhokta or the dehinaha or the dehi which is sitting inside us. So I told you, the process of becoming in actually moving away from food or becoming nirahar, or then what is that is how is that going to translate for us as actually in that sense? So the first step to actually give up food or the first step to remain without food is what? To give up the food, as in that, giving up food is the first step towards becoming away, or becoming without food. And our assumption is usually what? The meaning of austerity is actually to not eat food. But we need to understand the meaning of actually giving up food. Meaning of giving up food is what? Remaining without food. Without food means without food of all the senses. For a seeker, you know, when a seeker has to practice austerity, there needs to be lot of understanding and lot of wisdom which is required for a seeker to practice austerity. And for in when the seeker starts to practice austerity, giving up food has to come out of understanding the actual definition first, has to understand the full expand of it. When a person without understanding correctly try to work towards becoming without food, then the other disaster which happens with that person is that person will move towards becoming more irritated or upset towards things in people, and which we what practically see also. I have seen myself many examples of that. Somebody is practicing fasting, you go and ask them some question which is normally, and they start shouting at you. I mean, what did I do? I didn't ever told you to do fasting. If you are doing fasting, it's good for you. Why are you behaving wrongly with me, right? So that is what happens when we don't do, we get into things without understanding it correctly. Then these kind of aftermaths keep happening with us, and we also get after a point in time with such kind of a practice, it's not going to go take us longer in the whole run. So that is what happens, and many a times it is seen that uh, people do practice such kind of austerity, and in the society such kind of austerities are also called practicing of austerity only. They are called tapasya only. But Gita ji, through Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan Krishna makes it very clear to us that these kind of austerities are nothing but tamasic kind of austerities. And Bhagwan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 17th chapter or 6th verse says that also, karshayanta sharirastham bhutagramama chetasah mam chaivanta sharirastham tan vidyasura nishchayan. So Bhagavan says such people who practice such kind of austerity are actually fools. They have not understood the austerity itself correctly. They are actually creating trouble for the combination of the five elements and which has constituted and made them. They are actually giving pain to the combination of five elements in them, and through that it is not only that much, through giving pain to the by giving pain to the combination of five elements in them, they are doing nothing but troubling me sitting inside. I am sitting inside all of them. They are troubling me with that kind of a intent and that kind of an attitude what they are doing. And Bhagwan says it is for sure that such people are nothing but people of demonic habits. They are ones who have got habits of demon, asura swabhav. They are nothing but having asura swabhav. That's why for a seeker it is very important, whatever a seeker do must strictly follow by the definition given by our scriptures, the proof called scriptures, that what is the kind of austerity explained in our scriptures. So scripture should become our benchmark, and for that then guru also to explain what is the kind of austerity we should do. When we do austerity, when we do such kind of austerity which Bhagwan has explained, definitely they are better than and doing nothing, no doubt about it. They are definitely going to give you some kind of positive qualities, they will definitely give you. but some kind of positive qualities may come in you, but it will also give rise to certain other things also, like something, it will give rise to something called, they will start getting angry at very very small things also. They start to get angry very soon. No, oh, when we do kind sadhana, uh, if these kind of results come, that we start getting angry on anyone and everyone who comes to us, then that is not a good result. That is not a good kind of an austerity. If you are somebody who's practicing austerity, that you need to understand it very well. What is the kind of austerity which our scriptures declare and describe? If you follow that kind of an austerity, trust me, the benefits also which you reap are going to be far more, or helpful for you to move forward in your vertical growth journey. That's what we need to understand well here. Another thing we must watch out when we practice austerity is, just because you start to practice austerity, don't try to look down on other people who are not doing it. That's a big disaster which sometimes happen. And why? Because your practicing austerity should not give rise to your ego. You should not start seeing other people as low level beings. You're not doing anything. I'm the only one who's doing austerity. It's not that because of you only the whole earth is running, right? Don't try to consider such things at all. So one of the things that, and since these kind of things are seen by people practicing austerity, that is why many people, many scientists and all, many people who are intellectuals and all, they come to a conclusion that remaining without enjoyment, or giving up enjoyment, or giving up food actually gives nothing, but it gives only kind of irritated kind of behavior it gives rise to within us. It kinds and so gives us that we start to remain upset with people. We start to get entangled in our own thought process, in our own mental issues. That is what how people assess such kind of austerity. If we trust display these kind of behaviors after or practicing austerity. Hence, it is very important that whenever we practice austerity, we must practice it with a clear intellectual understanding of how it needs to be practiced and what is the practice which needs to be put into place. And one more major portion of this is that, at one more major side of it which you need to understand, very important side which you need to understand is, without out giving up food, or without out moving up or remaining without food, austerity also cannot be practiced. But the practice of giving up food should be coming out of, arising out of a clear understanding of how it needs to be practiced, so that slowly, gradually, when we build up that practice, it actually increases our stamina also. Remember, our mind and intellect requires a lot of practice. I'm just giving you an example. Olympics just completed just few days back. All those who played, it's not something that they one fine day got up from the bed and went to Olympics and won medal. It comes out of lot of practice. But remember one thing, practice is possible for every direction. Practice can be done for bad things also. Practice can be done for good things also. Both things require practice. So you have to make the choice of which direction you want to spend your energy towards, which direction, excuse me, which direction you want to invest your energy in. Now remember one thing, the choice is available to you. The creator, God, the supreme consciousness has given you complete freedom of choice. At the level of choice, supreme consciousness or Bhagwan never intervenes. It's entirely up to you. You can move ahead also, you can fall down also. But so your choice, so will be your consistent effort and practice. So when you choose it in the right direction, you need to, I don't have to give you wrong examples. There are many examples you can open television and see. Even the bad kind of things also, it is not something which is arisen out of one day. So we must make an effort to understand what has gone behind it, rather than just concluding it at the top level. There are many things which have gone behind it to come to that level of gross issues which are in the society also. So yes, there is an internal, well, what do you call that, evolution which needs to happen in the society. And if each one of us do not take the responsibility of us, come what may, you cannot carve out a good society. You can protect us, yes, definitely you can do that. You can, and or move away from such situations, you can escape from situations, but you won't be able to create a society without everybody taking up the onus of evolving themselves. That is why Bhagwan Bhashyakar has written, and that a man of understanding can also become without, and can also reach a level of remaining without food, whereas even a fool or a person who does not understand anything also can and remain without food. That's why the meaning of the word food, or what is consumed, needs to be understood correctly in the light of what scriptures say about the word called food. We need to understand what all is included. Whatever reaches the enjoyer, and whatever is enjoyed by the enjoyer, all qualifies to come under the category of food. It's not the physical food alone. Even if that which is enjoyed, or that which is consumed, so to say, bhog means consumed, that which is consumed, whether it is favorable or unfavorable, both are things of consumption only. They are both are things called food only, or ahar only. So which means what? To remain without food, or to move away from consuming something, in the actual level will be when a person practices to remain without any kind of objects, or without dependency on any object in totality. That's what needs to be understood. So as I mentioned, and to move from that level, or to reach that level of remaining without food, the first step is to first come to a level to avoid or completely give up the prohibited kind of objects or prohibited kind of actions. That's the first step of austerity. It's a level of austerity only, and that is the first step of how the first step of austerity is actually defined. So the first step of austerity for all of us is what? Giving up what is prohibited for us, prohibited by the scriptures, by our guru, according to our age, our place in the society, our kind of position attained in the society, our stature in the family. Those things which are prohibited for us, the moment we give up those things, that's the first level of austerity we need to practice. I know many things are defined, what is allowed or what is not allowed to us according to our age, according to our ashram. Ashram means those four ashram, which is what? Brahmacharya, grahasth, vanaprasth and sannyas. According to our ashram where we are currently placed, according to our varna. Varna means what? The chatur varnam we spoke about, which is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Many things are allowed for someone, many things are not allowed for someone. So according to our varna, according to our post, according to our role, well, whatever is actually according to these things, what is actually good for according to our role, those only things we should do. Those which are not favorable for us, according to these things which I just mentioned, we should practice the thing of giving up such things. Remember, why I'm highlighting it so much? According to our past samskar, past culture which have been cultivated in us, past kind of habits which have been cultivated in us, we need to remember one thing. Those things, prohibited things also, we may have interest for those things. That is according to the past culture cultivated, past habits cultivated. When I say past, means it could be in past life also, it could be before reaching here also, it could be either of them. So interest will be there, but the intelligence of a seeker will be what? That through correct thought process, through introspection, through critical analysis of himself or herself, a seeker must practice of giving up those things. For a enjoyer, for a bhokta, you need to understand he's got an abundance of culture inherited from his past lives, in this life also, in the past lives also. So there is an abundance of culture which is carried forward with us as part of us, which are sometimes too pushy or too actually attractive for us to actually draw us into those fields also. But if he has to develop the attitude of becoming a seeker, wants to contribute towards the vertical growth of himself or herself, must practice the art of giving up, the act of giving up, of the act of completely moving away from such things. So remember, all our inherited past culture and all our inherited past habits, they have their own force by which they can draw us to those directions. But we must exercise control and practice the control through our intelligence. And that is what Bhagavan is actually wanting to mean by this particular verse. Even and during with intelligence also, many times it is seen, and it is an experience of us also, that whatever is according to our post, our stature in the society, our age, our ashram, and our spiritual progress, as also whatever is not right, it with our intelligence we should identify what is not right, and we should practice that we should not consume or engage in such activities is at all. Scriptures, whenever they explain the word called austerity, they also say one thing, that giving up food or giving up objects take its own time. It's not something which happens overnight. But whenever it explains austerity, it will always base austerity first with the food first, because food is a very gross thing. It's a gross thing. And the other things which I spoke about, which is consumed with senses, are actually subtle in nature. Okay, so austerity is always explained by giving the example of food. Remember, having said that, the fast we do, the fast we practice, the fasting we practice is also developing a capability in us to start practicing austerity. That is one of the beauty of fasting also. So I'll to tell you that fasting we must practice as in between. These days even medical sciences have come up with the fact that fasting really is beneficial for the body, and also those are medical things also. So whenever scripture declares as nirahar, the word ahar, it will always be in the context of the food we consume. But the actual meaning of nirahar is whatever objects are consumed by our senses, or whatever objects are enjoyed by our senses, all those things qualify to become food for us. So even food also, practicing fasting also, you just see, translate it for yourself. It is not something which will come in one day. For practicing fasting also, whenever people ask me or seek advice from me, I tell them that even if you are practicing Ekadashi, try to start with giving up one meal. Maybe, giving up breakfast, giving up lunch, or giving up dinner. Slowly, gradually, once that becomes firm in you, then try to practice giving up second meal and rely on only one meal in a day. And then if you can practice that for a long period of time and get established in that and reach a level where the mind doesn't run after food during those meals which you give up, then you are qualified to actually practice the last level of giving up food for the full day also. So as I told in my group of WhatsApp also for the listeners of podcast, is that actual Ekadashi fasting also starts from the Dashami evening. Dashmi evening it starts, that before sunrise you have to consume your last meal on Dashmi, then no meal after that. on the day of Ekadashi, all 3 meals are skipped, and the breaking of fast happens on the Dwadashi day with the morning breakfast. That's the actual way of practicing Ekadashi fast, but that's not possible for everyone. So whosoever comes and asks me, I tell them, don't worry about that. What you can practice, you practice. Start with that practice of at least start with giving up 1 meal, and then slowly, gradually move to giving up 2 meal. Once you practice that for a long period of time, then only move to giving up third meal, if at all it is possible. But remember, for that also the condition is, if you have any prevailing body condition, that acidity and all those things, you should not practice those things also. Then you should change your way of fasting. There are different ways to do that also. For everyone there is a way out in our scripture. That's the beauty of our scriptures, that we have the ways given in our scriptures to practice austerity. So it means what, or the demand of wisdom is what, slowly, gradually, as our capability increases, so should we start giving up one by one, food after food. That is what is meant by actually a nirahar word here, when Bhagavan uses the word niraharasya dehina. One second, I'll come to this portion again, and as we move around. But the second kind, the level of reaching the giving up food, the second stage of giving up food is a seeker starts to look for or those things which are not necessary for his survival or necessary for his living. Starts giving up those things which are not necessary amongst those things which are allowed. Now this necessary and unnecessary is not there for the prohibited things. Once he gives up, the first step is what, giving up the prohibited things completely. Then the second stage is starts to look for or giving up those things which are not necessary for the seeker. Now remember, there is no mistake in consuming those things which are allowed. It is not something which is like, we should not do or anything like that. There's no mistake in that. But we must reach the next level of giving up, that we should start giving up those things also which are allowed. How do you start giving that? The first level of giving up or practicing austerity of giving up those from those which are allowed is that start identifying those things which are not necessary for you currently and start to give up those things. And that is why Bhagwan says is, for this kind of a thought, this thought process we have to make within us, that at only consuming what is necessary, what is right for me. You have to first come to that resolution level, right? Internally you have to make up your mind to come to that decision, that I will identify those things which are not necessary in my life. Remember, I am not using the word unnecessary. I'm saying not necessary in my life. And then I'll amongst the things which are allowed to me, I will completely divide them between what is necessary and what is unnecessary. And then I slowly what is necessary and what is not necessary. Sorry. So I'll first divide amongst those, and then I'll slowly, gradually practice to give those things which are not necessary for my living. And that kind of practicing is actually called, we defined in Vedanta, called uparamta. Uparamta is for vihit things, or those things which are allowed. It is not about the nishid at all. The reason why it is being said like this, if such a kind of a thought starts to rise in us, that consuming what is allowed is right for me, then remember one thing, giving up won't be possible for you. So you have to come up, it has to first create a resolve in you. You have to first come up to a level of understanding that at consuming all that which is allowed is not something which is required for me. It is not necessary for me at all. So I have to define, or I have to come up to identify those things which are not necessary, and choose those things which are necessary for me and keep it with them. So in Vedanta also, when they call about Shat Sampati, they have one of the Sampatis, Uparati. Now remember, Uparati does not mean, in Vedanta, the definition of Uparati does not mean giving up that is prohibited. That's not the definition of Uparati at all. Uparati is always towards those things which are allowed. Practicing this austerity of Uparati or creating this quality of Uparati is actually about those things which are allowed. And the benefit of choosing or dividing amongst those things which are allowed and classifying them under two things, that which is not necessary and that which is necessary, is that, and giving up those things which are not necessary in life, the actual goal of that is, or actual benefit is, that you are actually saving your time and you are saving your energy. That is the purpose why scripture is telling you this way. Just because something is allowed to me, and that does not mean that I must consume it, or I should definitely get entangled in that, and that is what entangling that at, or not entangling, that is what is allowed, what is my dharma. uh, and once you stop of getting engaged in them, you are not going against the dharma shastra. Don't think like that. you know oh, remember one thing, even if you engage in those things which are allowed to you without the classification of what is necessary and what is not necessary, you remember one thing, your time and energy is definitely going to go after them. It's definitely going to be consumed by them. And it's not that we have unlimited energy and unlimited time. That is also not correct. Also, nobody in this world has got unlimited time and unlimited energy. The time and energy with us is actually limited. That is why we must make an effort to actually save our time and energy. You cannot distribute, you cannot start to freely give up your time and energy for anything and everything which comes your way. No, that's not right. Remember, the time which is gone, it is never going to come in your utilization at all. It's never going to be useful for you at all, that which has gone. So to say, for the energy also, that energy which is gone, you can't get it back. So we need to understand, a seeker must have an intelligent living methodology where the seeker is critical about what is necessary for him and what is unnecessary for him, so that he protects the energy, he protects the time which is available with him and invests it correctly. Like I'm giving you an example. Many people earn money, but the use of money can be into many things. You can spend the entire money you earn also, you can spend partly and save some also, you can save more and spend less also. There are many combinations which can be there. But remember, the money you spend, it is never going to come back to you. It's gone. So whatever you earn, you must practice to save something for that, which is available when you require things in the future. You don't have to go and beg someone else. So that is the beauty what is explained here. In the same way as money is, the time and energy which we have is also limited. We must exercise caution in terms of where we are spending it in our daily life. When we start to look towards or start to classify or identify those things which are not necessary for us, or so to say unnecessary for a spiritual seeker, now I can come to that level to say that, then when we identify that first, that is when we start paying attention to those things. Then one more process starts with us, that slowly, gradually, when we start to classify between that what is necessary and not necessary, slowly, gradually, another thing starts to happen with us, that our attention also starts to go towards thing, that as we move along the spiritual path, or we become we start to progress in the life of a seeker, we start to limit our requirement and the necessities also. Slowly, gradually, we work towards that also. The one side is that slowly, gradually, we'll see that our necessities also start to reduce in life. And the other thing is that which is not necessary for us, we will definitely start to give up those also. On the other side, when we start to consume those things which are not necessary for us, there is a reverse process also which functions. those things which are not necessary for us today, slowly, gradually, they also start to become necessary for us tomorrow. They are also start to, move into the category of things which become necessary for us for our life. They start to fall into that category. The things of luxury, it may start with, small stint, but later on, trust me, it becomes a necessity for us. I can count many things, but you all must look into your own life to decipher what I'm talking about here. For a seeker, a seeker must start to think in this way, that these things which seem to be necessary for me today, is it something that I can live without? Those things which are seeming to be necessary, today, is it something which I can start to live without? When a seeker starts to focus such kind of a thought process, or start to encourage such kind of a thought process, it is for sure, or that in some days is, this seeker is slowly, gradually start to become firm, in terms of moving towards those things which are holding on to only those things which are necessary in life, and giving up those things which are not necessary for the seeker at all. And with in all means and fairness, as for these things we need to understand that a lot of wisdom and intelligence is required. And more than that, Puja Gurudev used to say very beautifully, for a seeker, the first thing which is of prima facie importance is alertness and vigilance. A seeker must be alert and vigilant all the time to monitor this thing, that I hope no unnecessary things or things which are not necessary are gaining importance in my life. And in all means and fairness, I would say it is very, very important for every student of Vedanta to practice such things. And we are the only one who can do it for us. Nobody else can do it. Nobody can decide this for us. It is not something which anybody can dictate for me or anybody can implement for me. I am the only one who can do it for me. I am the only one who can decide for me. So what things are necessary for me and what things are not necessary for me also. It can only be decided by me. Many a times, and situations also who decide for us what is right for us and what is wrong. But when situations decide for us, and our wisdom is not in place for that thing, it may not be permanent in nature for us actually. And I can give you many examples for that. Many kind of ailments also we can speak about when we describe it. Let me see what all I can cover, and I'll take it up those meanings also as we move along. Many a times it is seen that situations in our life also decides that with how much we have to manage. Our prarabdha also plays a role in there, that for some people they are given only this much and they have to manage in that. And sometimes society also, or teaches us, or society also makes us come into a way that these many demands of yours will only be fulfilled. This is these next step of becoming, in reaching the level of nirahar, that a seeker starts to give up even those which are allowed for that seeker, so that his time and energy is saved. He is able to save his time and energy. And that time and energy which is saved, it doesn't waste that in relaxing and being lethargic about it. That time and energy which is saved from running after, or engaging in these kind of things, he actually invests that time and energy towards his chosen goal in life. Remember one thing, the sadhana or the effort towards becoming nirahar, or the austerity of nirahar which Bhagwan is talking about, can go very, very far. And so far that some people with that practice can become our Parama Guru, like Swami Tapovanji Maharaj also. And some people can reach greater heights with that kind of practice over a period of time. In Srimad Bhagavatam also, the word aparigraha has been explained very well. There the word aparigraha says yavad artha parigraha aparigraha, only acquiring or accumulating those things which are necessary for me itself is called, or actually, a limited accumulation. Aparigraha means limiting your accumulation. Many times we see, when we accumulate things and objects, many things we accumulate in life, and later on sometime we come to know that these things were also not required. We may not even end up using many things in our life. So they say aparigraha, one way of defining aparigraha according to Srimad Bhagavad Gita is only acquiring or accumulating or keeping those things which are necessary in life. If that also is kind of an aparigraha, kind of a limited acquisition practiced by a one particular person. On the other side, right, even if somebody may be drowning in enjoyment and wasting whole life in enjoyment, but remember, nobody who has come in life here can do unlimited enjoyment. That is not possible for anyone. Even those people who are enjoying day in and day out, we will see that at some stage they will have to come to a stage of giving up those things. Even if somebody may be grossly engaged in enjoying day in and day out also, there will be a point in time which will come in the life of that person where that person has to give up many things actually. So when we say ahar, food is something that when Bhagwan is talking about nirahar, our word, but we must set a boundary, set a limit for the kind of food we or things we enjoy or consume, and it is a necessity for us, as it is a must thing for us. We all must set our own boundaries and limits for what we are consuming, because unlimited consumption is not possible for anyone. Everybody must have their own kind of limit and boundary, and I'm sure everyone has also today. And when this kind of a limit and boundary is a necessity, that means another part, a possibility is what, if this is a kind of requirement from us, that we must have a limit and boundary to the things we enjoy in our life, the things we engage in our life, that means the another aspect of that is the limit and boundary can be extended and expanded also. Then that means what, the sadhana of becoming nirahar, or we can and increase it as according to what our capability starts to build up. If a seeker is actually intelligent, has got wisdom, so remember one thing, slowly, gradually, that seeker will work also towards this thing to increase the boundary or limit of remaining without food, or moving away from food, or moving away from enjoyment. In the worldly parlance also, you will see that when we want to spend, when whoever want to achieve great heights in anything to talk about, let me not only talk about spirituality here, anything you speak about in the world, you see great scientists, you see great intellectuals, you see successful businessmen, remember, all of them have practiced some way of being nirahar, or without limiting their or having boundaries of enjoyment. That is why they have been able to reach where they have reached today. So this is a necessity for anyone who wants to be successful, because only by limiting or creating those boundaries only, or investing our time and energy correctly only, man can achieve great results. Remember, any man, any human can achieve great results, provided he makes the choice well, he invests his or her time and energy into the correct direction, what he wants to do. Success is achievable by every human being in this creation. The only thing which makes the difference is what is your choice in life, and where have you invested your time and energy available to you. So that's the example which I can draw from the common seen examples in the world also. any successful person you see in the world, they have been successful because they have created those boundaries and they have invested their time and energy well, and they have made correct choices to reach there. It is irrespective, it's not about spiritual also. If that is the case of the worldly level also, then think what spiritual achievements can be if one try to practice in, put their effort in that particular direction. So that's what Bhagwan wants us to think towards. So on the contrary, what will you call such a seeker who has so much of time to waste on things here and there? You can't call all that a true seeker also that way. Even if somebody is a true seeker, even if somebody is a established successful businessman, a successful seeker, the one thing which you must see in them is that they may not have time to waste on unnecessary endeavors in life. They don't have time for such thing. For becoming successful, remember one thing: the practice of becoming nirahar is a must. Without that, success cannot be achieved in life. And one thing which is also seen, which is what Bhagwan is also trying to bring up from this particular verse, is that when he says Vishaya Vinivartante, now I'm coming to that point to explain there, that when a person starts to put effort to move away from objects, the thing which we see in this world is object also start to move away from such a person. Between the dehi and object, and as and when the distance increases, we will see when the dehi has to practice, the person has to practice first. As the person starts to practice, establishing distance between the object also starts to come to a level to move away from that particular seeker, or from that practitioner, from that austere person. But the difficulty is which Bhagwan is trying to bring up in the next line. In the heart or in the mind and of the enjoyer, from time immemorial, the kind of culture and the kind of memory of the taste resides, which is called rasa varjam. Now, the meaning of the word rasa means that his intellect has got this taste inside that so and so thing has got the capability to give me happiness. That is called rasam. Not the, I told you last time also, it's not the South Indian rasam I'm talking about here. Bhagwan says rasam means the memory of taste resides in that person, that such and such thing, whenever engaged, can give me happiness even today. That memory is not destroyed in that person. So when even that person puts into practice also, that memory is there, which keeps bothering him time and on whenever that object comes there. So what do you mean by the memory of taste remains? That the importance assigned to that object, that mahatva buddhi which is assigned to the object, still exists in the intellect of this particular person. The happiness binding factor with that object still remains as a taste in the intellect of this person. And even those things which with careful thought we have given up, those things also we see the thought of taste or the importance of towards that object, the thought of taste or in the memory still remains. And when those things come into us, that is when we realize, oh, this taste is still there. And that is one of a kind of a difficulty which a seeker faces, that those things which have been given up by the seeker also, in those things also, the sukha buddhi, the thought of happiness, that I have gained happiness by enjoying these objects, the traces of them still remains. That is one of the difficulty which a practicing seeker also faces. Now, if the thought of deriving happiness from it remains in the memory, that means there is another thing which is there called importance also attached to that object, which is residing in our memory. So the thing is, in one half of our intellect there is a kind of dosha buddhi, a fault, or an understanding of that this is not right for me, which also exists for that particular object, and on the because of which only I gave up that object, right? And on the other half of my intellect, an importance or the thought of gaining happiness from it also resides actually. Now this thought of that this is not good for me is not something which has been established by because somebody told that to me. It is something which has arisen out of my own experience also. Now this much I'll take up today. There is some more portion of this verse left which I'll take up in the next session before we move on to the verse number 60 from there on. So remaining I will take in the next session. Kayena vacha manasendriyaiva बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि श्रीमन्नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम तत्सत्।